So Jeff, are you going to give some announcements, first of all? This is Jeff, our most honourable secretary.
Okay, thank you very much, Ajahn. Tonight we have Ajahn Brahm, supported by the Venerable, I hope I can pronounce this right, Sunil?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. This Sunday, 10th of November, between 3 and 4, we have a sutta class, which I believe is being taken by Venerable Dhammaloka.
Yes, me.
All welcome. And this is, do we know which sutta we're doing this weekend?
Surprise sutta.
Surprise sutta.
But anyway, just to give you a hint, I think it's been, I found out, so 18 months since I went through the Word of the Buddha translation. So I think it's good to start another cycle. Retranslated. Powerful. Only for those who are advanced. Are you advanced enough? Oh, I think you are. So come along and see if you like it.
Oh, well, that was a very good plug for that.
Very good.
Next one is Dhammaloka Monastery, the nuns' monastery up at Gidjiganup and Wren Road, is having a busy bee on Sunday the 17th of November. There will be a poster over on the notice board in the house there. It's from 8 till 4 and they give you a lunch break from 10:30 to 12.
Not many places these days gives you a powerful lunch break of an hour and a half. Wow.
So this is to help prepare for the fire season, and it's helping the nuns with raking and clearing debris and leaves off fire breaks in the bush. And this is all a wonderful opportunity to make really good karma, and also to perhaps get to know the nuns a little bit better and to get to know the nuns' monastery. I would encourage people to go along. The other announcement is that there are still a couple of spots left for Ajahn Brahmali's weekend retreat next weekend. Please see the website for details. The retreat is hosted by Kalyana Mitta organisation.
How many spots left?
It says a couple.
Only a couple. You better get in there fast because he's a very good teacher and very popular. Is there anything about the Santuti's Katina? I think he's doing, for those who live close to Kelmscott or Armadale, we have another sort of associated monastery down there on Scott Road. And actually this Sunday, correct?
I think so.
Sorry? This Sunday, they're having a Katina ceremony there. A small monastery, lots and lots and lots of Cambodians, Australians, Thais, and goodness knows who else. Lots of my monks are over there as well. So that's in Scott Road. So on this Sunday, that's next Sunday, is the over in Gidjiganup, Dhammaloka. Okay. So it's all so convenient. You can go there in the morning down to Scott Road in Kelmscott for the Cambodian and our monks' Katina Day. Then afterwards you come here for the sutta class, and after the sutta class to get ready for next week at Gidjiganup. Wow. You'll make such amazing good karma. Whoa. Anyway, just because we are expanding, we have all these different monasteries and temples all over the place now. So I call it my franchises, branches, Mac Brahms. Is that good? No, not Mac Brahms. Mac BSWAs? I don't know, anyway. Mac Bodhinanas? No, it doesn't work, does it? Okay, anyway. So I'll make sure, because it's under my guidance, there's always quality control. Only the best teachings, the best monks, the best nuns, and of course the best food. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, no. Okay, thank you. And of course the best meditation as well. So those of you who are already sitting down, hopefully comfortable, now if you like to make yourself more comfortable. So we can start our meditation. So simply sitting down and learning how to relax to the max. If you try and hold yourself tight, you find that you become tense. When you become tense, you become tired or even in pain. So this is learning how to really deeply relax your body and afterwards your mind. Even for those who look at the deeper meditations, you still have to begin by learning how to relax so deeply that you can truly establish awareness, mindfulness, without any tension or tightness. When you're painting a wall, preparation is important. Digging a garden, so much work just turning over the soil. In meditation, learning how to relax before we even go onto anything else. Are you sitting here? Is your body comfortable? Maybe comfortable now, but in 10, 20, 30 minutes will it still be comfortable? So this is where we learn how to be really aware of our body and also learning how to relax it. So you start with your legs. If they're hanging over a chair or crossed on the floor or tucked under a stool, how do they feel now? Something as simple as asking, legs, how are you? Is a way of directing your attention to that part of your body. You get an answer back from your legs. Legs, is there anything I can do to make you more comfortable? You may get an answer. If you do, follow that advice. Adjust, fidget, scratch. It's good to do that now rather than in the middle of the meditation. And please do not assume there is a magical position for meditation which you've seen in books or you've seen sort of in a statue somewhere. You're not a statue, you're flesh and blood. You hurt, you're in pain sometimes. So don't try and emulate what you see cast in stone. Be aware of how you feel and adjust accordingly. Being able to move and adjust until you find the optimum, the best position for your legs is kindness. Kindness to your own body. And then you're aware of something as simple, as overlooked as your butt. Supporting your weight on the cushion, on the stool, on the chair, wherever you are sitting. How does that feel? If ever I just disregard my bottom when I start meditating, I increase the chances of my legs going to sleep. The old pins and needles, the numbness. And always remember that's because I didn't really pay proper attention at the beginning. So I'm really aware of how my butt feels. And I'm willing to fidget this, fidget that until I get the best position. I am practicing mindfulness together with kindness, what I called kindfulness. Kindfulness. It works. And then I move my attention up to my back. Many people have aches, pains in the back. So I feel my back. Really am aware of it. And as usual, I like stretching my back. Just like you see animals in the jungle having a good stretch. Even kangaroos. And then I let go. It makes me aware of how my back feels. Thereby I can check it out to make sure it's all comfortable. And moving up to my shoulders. Learning how to relax them too. Awareness gives you the data, the information. And moving it this way, moving it that way, gives you feedback. One little method is just to scrunch those shoulders up as tight as I possibly can, and then let go. And the muscles relax deeper than when I began. And I can feel that. I am aware enough of the tightness or ease in my shoulders to know how relaxed those muscles are. Every time I meditate, I do this, so I learn this awareness of the body and knowing what causes tension in my body and what relaxes it. Thereby I learn not just how to exercise my body, but how to relax it, to bring it to a state of ease. And I look at my arms and my hands, making sure my arms and hands that they're also comfortable. Move up to my shoulders again and ask my neck and my throat how it feels. Again, I look upon it as like my family, parts of my body which I have to live with, I can't escape from. Making sure every part of my body is as comfortable as I possibly can make it. Mindfulness gives me the data, do this, do that, move, change an attitude, get feedback. That way you learn, trial and error, how to relax. I'm very aware of the feeling of relaxation, of ease, when things aren't being held tight. I know that feeling because I've looked at it for a long time, many years. Then move up to my face, where the emotions inside are played out for all to see on the muscles around my eyes and my mouth and forehead. People can read your emotions by the configuration of those muscles around your eyes and mouth. So I learn how to relax those muscles. So nothing is being pulled, nothing is being pushed or squashed. I'm aware enough of those muscles to know how just to relax them at will. Because as I bring ease and relaxation to the muscles around my face, the corresponding emotions inside also lessen and even disappear. Bringing peace to those muscles brings peace to my emotional world. In this very simple exercise, I've relaxed my body parts one by one. And before I move on, I am aware of my body right now, really relaxed, at ease, and noticing how delightful it feels, the pleasure of relaxation. The reason why people do just go lazing on the beach, or they do like to sleep in the morning if they have the day off, a nice cozy, relaxed bed, or they go for massages or hot baths. Here I do all of that just by sitting, being aware and learning how to relax every part of my body. When it starts to feel delightful, the relaxation goes deeper. I don't need to think or wander off anywhere because it's delightful, it's fun, just being with a relaxed body. If there's any part of it that's still tight, I just focus in, zoom in on that part of the body, and just relax it. Relax to the max, with no fear. Before the mind wanders off, now we go to the mind. Relaxing the body, now to relax the mind. How peaceful are you, or how agitated? You don't need to tell anybody except yourself. From 1 to 10. The peaceometer, which I call it. What number would you give it this evening? From 1 to 10. At least you know where you are. Now, see what is necessary to bring that number down, to relax it. Being in the present moment now is essential. Fears, anxieties, plannings of the future just disturb you. Now is where your future is made. This moment is the only one you have to create a healthy, peaceful, happy future. Now is where life is made. So focus on this moment. It gives you more opportunities to relax the mind. The past cannot be changed. Just like dead coffins which cannot be revived. Carrying them around with you. It's crazy when you look at it that way. Let the past fade away. When you focus in this moment, when you're aware and alert and kind, this moment, this mind calms down. You find more peace. But really important, please notice the pleasure of peace of mind. The joy of being inwardly relaxed. The sooner you can notice the pleasantness of being calm, the less likely it is you'll wander off onto some second-class happiness like thoughts and fantasies. The joyful peace of this moment is more profound, more spiritual, more happy. So appreciate the pleasure of now. The freedom. You may start to be aware of your breath if you want to. As long as it's happening now and you're relaxed, fine. If you are, just let the breath come in, let the breath go out. Breathing in peace, breathing out let go. You're making sure you don't sacrifice the peace in your mind. Peace comes first. Awareness of the breath comes next. I'm going to be quiet now until the meditation finishes in about 8 minutes' time. do you feel now? It's getting close to the end of this short meditation. And getting close to Christmas as well, the jingle bells I just heard. So how relaxed is your body? And how free is your mind? So enjoy it for a few more seconds. Now I'll do the jingle bell thing to end the meditation. And please, out of kindness, smile when you come out of meditation. I have to look at you and imagine a couple of hundred grumpy faces. Anyway, so if you would get yourselves nice and comfy, in a minute we will start this evening's talk. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. So I have just returned from overseas, as usual. And by overseas I don't mean Rottnest. I just went over to UK and on the way back to Kuala Lumpur to do some services. And just one thing you notice in so many places in this world, just how many people have mental health issues, have this incredible stress, and have a lack of peace and happiness in their life, worried about so many things. And it's the topic of the talk this evening is how to sort of overcome some of these by talking about what we call resilience. Resilience is the opportunity to be able to quote Shakespeare, Hamlet, to endure the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Just when life throws curly balls at you, and you don't know where they come from, why it happens to you, and there's just so much to worry about, to think about, to blame others, to be angry at yourself. So much so that it's very rare these days to see people even smiling. And it means that our world is just doesn't know how to relax. Takes things far too seriously, but people keep saying, this is important. What is really important in your life? Well, I haven't told this one for a long time. A professor came into his lecture hall. This was at a business school. And he had a jug, and he took out from his briefcase, took out a bag of stones, and one by one put the stones into this jug until he could get no more stones inside the jug. And he asked his students, is the jug full? I said, yeah, of course, you can't get any more stones in. He smiled, and from his briefcase he picked out a bag of gravel, smaller stones. And one by one he put those into the jar, shook the jar, and many of those smaller stones found their way in the spaces between the big rocks and the smaller rocks. Is it full? No, they said. They were onto him by now. So from his bag he picked out his briefcase. He got a bag of fine sand, sprinkled the fine sand onto the rocks and gravel, shook the jar until much of the sand found its way in the spaces between the rocks and the gravel. Is it full yet? He asked the class. He had nothing more in his briefcase. They said, no, you'll probably find some other thing to put in there. He got the water jar and poured the water into that big jar. So that much of the water found its way between the rocks, the gravel and the sand. And he didn't want to try and find any other thing to put in that jar. He said, now what is the meaning of this lesson? Modern times, okay? Business school. One smart-ass kid put their hand up and said, it shows us, sir, no matter how busy we are, we can always fit something more in. Have you ever heard your bosses saying that? No, said the professor. What it shows us, if you want to put the big rocks in, the precious stones, you have to put them in first. Otherwise you'll never get them in. You can fit the other stuff in afterwards, but the important things in life you have to put in first. Priority. So, what's the most important thing in your life? Obviously something like your health, for goodness sake. Physical health and your mental health. If that starts going pear-shaped, if that starts getting really, really sick, and really depressed, really anxious, then you can't fit anything in your jar afterwards. So we learn to look after our health and our mental health. It's just so easy when you give it priority. So why is it that people get sick, physically sick? You can ask the monks. I don't know what it is. It's been a long time since I had a day off work, except when I go on retreats, and then I'll make sure I'm really healthy then. It's been a long time since I've been that sick that I can't actually perform. Yeah, was it last year I had the old pony virus when I was coughing all the time. You know what the pony virus is? Makes you a little hoarse. Yeah, we've heard that one before. Wow, people have forgotten all my old jokes. And just the way I sometimes treat my body, travelling all over the place, getting jet lagged and just landing and talking almost as soon as I get out of the aircraft, that doesn't matter, I'm fine. And going through all the airports, the other little joke I said about 6 months ago? Those people who travel a lot, you can imagine what it's like. All these walking incubators of diseases, walking in these airports, or confined in these tubes called aircraft for hours on end. So it's amazing I don't catch something, but usually I'm fine. Especially going through airports. When you get sick through airports, what do you call it? Terminal disease. Oh, come on, that was I'm really good. You've got terrible memories, because I remember telling that just before the range retreat started 4 or 5 months ago. But nevertheless, you can keep your health well. How come? Now, part of resilience is beautiful simile, which I often use for meditation, but here for your life. The simile of the guitar string. Stretched and stretched and stretched really tight. And something, unexpected things hit it. Just, the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune. Things actually just strike these things from time to time. And if your string is really tight, bing! It really resounds. And everyone can hear it. Now imagine loosening the tension. Loosening the tension so you're not being pulled and pushed. You've got not so much pressure or stress. That's what stress is. Sort of extending you beyond what is comfortable. Pushing yourself to achieve. Dragged back by the past, being held back so you can't really sort of just fly off into the future. Bing! It hits it, and it's not as high pitched, but it still makes a sound. Now imagine you've got no burdens of the past holding you back into the past, not fixed to what happened to you before. You've got nothing stretching you into the future. You are totally in this presence, relaxed to the max, at ease, in Thai, sabai. What happens when something hits you? Nothing. You don't reverberate. You're so relaxed, whatever virus tries to come into you, you're too relaxed. It doesn't take hold on you. An injury. Remember all these stories about babies who fall from windows 2 or 3 stories and they don't have any injuries? Because they're relaxed. Somehow or other, when we get tense, that is when we get injured. Now that's physical. Imagine the emotional tension which we have inside of us. So much so that things start to go wrong in your life. Your boss says something bad about you. They call you stupid. That's what bosses do. Have you found ever a boss who always says how wonderful you are, what a great worker you are, and just how wonderful it is that you're working for them? If you find a boss like that, it's only because you're self-employed, you got your own business. Otherwise, of course, the boss will tell you to do this and do that and tell you off and what sort. But, at the very least, that's what bosses are like. So when you don't expect anything different, when that story about lowering your expectations, I love that idea. Lower your expectations. I don't expect much from my monks. Thank you. And I'm never disappointed. In fact, they usually exceed my expectations. That makes me happy. Your husband? What do you expect from husbands? Come on, get real. More importantly, what do you expect from yourself? Sometimes our expectations of ourselves and life, what we want out of this world, is way too high. I don't know where we get those expectations from. Maybe it's because you just watch movies, watch reality TV, or I don't know what you watch. But anyway, sometimes we expect way too much, and we're always disappointed. And this is one of the problems of our life. Disappointment. We think something's gone wrong. It doesn't go wrong. Just the story came up because sometimes as a monk, as a senior monk, you have to deal with the problems of life, really big problems of life. When you have separations, all that is mine, beloved and pleasing, said the Buddha, will one day become separated from me. We leave each other. But when I don't expect anything else, when I expect all my friends, all my family, that one day they will be parted, it changes the whole ball game. Number one, it means that I really appreciate the time I have together with my friends and my colleagues. Because I don't know how long it's going to be there. And even just, here we go again, just it comes out the story of my father's death. It's only 16 years I knew that man. It was wonderful years we had together. I treasure those years. And I never ever think of, what's been taken away. Instead, I always think, just little remembrances. I told this the other day, and apparently there was some movie which was so similar to my experience in a totally different way. My father came from what's called a council flat. He was sick for most of his life, so really difficult to, we were legitimately poor. I know people say they're poor as a badge of honor, but we were really poor, living with migrants. In a block of flats where we were, the person in the bottom floor did something which was raw. That was really going a bit too far. You know what they did? They decided to make spaghetti one evening. In that part of the world, making spaghetti, that was just really pushing the envelope. Not having meat and 2 veg is not the sort of thing which our culture of poor English people would do. And so we're talking about that for weeks. Crazy little things. But I just remember I must have been about 14, and we had the parents teachers meeting, and I remember my math teacher, he told my father that I was doing really well at school. Too well. As far as my father was concerned, there was a good chance, said my math teacher, that your son would go to Cambridge University. And my father apparently said, no, he's not going. And they had a standoff. I heard this, because all the other parents saw this, and they told their children told me the following day. They almost had a fight. And apparently there was a movie about a young boy in Newcastle who wanted to be a ballet star. Billy something or other. But anyway, and apparently the person who was teaching him saw his talent, argued with the father, because in that part of, I think it was a minor, and boys don't do ballet in Newcastle. And where I came from, boys don't go to Cambridge. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but anyway, but it was wonderful to actually see that sort of attention, that expecting your son to, be close to you forever, in the same social orbit, being able to go to the pub with him, talk about football and whatever else, people would talk about, but not sort of go too far away from your father. He loved me. He didn't want to lose me, but nevertheless, just after one day, no, you go. That beautiful sacrifice of a parent. He was also the fellow who taught me, he said, never ever steal, son. If you want something that bad, just ask me and I'll get it for you. Even though he was really poor. He'd probably steal it for me. But I wasn't allowed to steal. But anyway, when he died, of course, resilience. How could you not look upon that as something which was tragic? I was 16 when he died. how it worked was just change one's attitudes, be wiser, appreciate what you had. 16 years was all I had with him. Thank you so much for all that time. Preferred more, but 16 was pretty good. So I always look on what stress is, what negativity is, by just looking at all the things which are wrong, rather than looking at all the things which were right. Yeah, it'd be great to have 50 years, but 16 years, brilliant. But what happens if somebody even younger dies? Because sometimes, as a monk, there's some things which you can actually do which really help people look at a total different way. And that was, of course, when babies die. And I've seen many from little, when they're first born, before they were born, until every year. I've been in this, being a monk for such a long time now. But this story, it was called the story of the falling leaves. It's such a beautiful story. There was one girl in Singapore. She was obviously musically gifted, and she wrote a song about it, about falling leaves, when her father died. This didn't really apply to her father. It usually applied to people who are much younger. When the storms go through the forest, heavy winds, and then many trees fall. But not just trees, leaves fall. The next day, after there's a storm, go to your nearest forest. You get so many teachings from nature. Go to your nearest forest and look what leaves have been torn from the leaves the night before. What leaves have been torn from the trees. Sorry, not trees torn from the leaves. What leaves have been torn from the trees the night before. And you'll notice something. Most of the leaves which have been fallen on the ground, torn off by the storm, are old brown leaves. There's always a few yellow leaves. There's always some green leaves. There's always some fresh green leaves, which have probably only lived a few hours on that tree, hardly had much of a life at all. And they also lie dead on the ground. And look to see what leaves are left. And even though young green leaves lay dead on the ground, you still see old brown leaves curled up there, still hanging on. Just when you see young children die, see these oldies, 60, 70, 80, 90 years of age, still old brown leaves, curled up, but still hanging on. Is anything gone wrong there? This is where we use our wisdom to know what to expect and what not to expect. When winds go through our communities, they don't always take the old ones. Most of the old ones, but also some young ones as well. That's our life. And if our expectations are in line with reality, with nature, we never need to feel sad. This is our life. We become at peace with our existence, with nature. So that means when we don't fight nature, we find we have this beautiful sense of resilience and peace with life. Yeah, sure, in your life, sometimes you lose your job. Sometimes you lose your health, sometimes you lose relationships. One of the highlights, I've been telling a few people this, one of the highlights of my visit over to UK, just after a couple of days, just was passing through one of the main railway terminals in UK, Paddington Station. Huge number of platforms and trains and people, and just moving from the underground, the tube, over to the main line to get a train to Oxford. That there just a woman passed me, never seen her before, but she's seen me before. Because she came right up to me. She's about in her late 20s. I couldn't couldn't really say, maybe 25, 26, an Afro-English, English, I don't know, but anyway, that she came up and said, you're the YouTube monk. And I quite like that, YouTube monk. I said, yeah, Ajahn Brahm, yeah, that's me. And she said, you saved my life. Imagine just a stranger just walking up to you saying something like that. Because she'd been going through a relationship breakup. You know what it's like sometimes. Well, actually, I don't, because I've been a monk for too long. But sometimes it just really tears your essence out of you. You just don't know where to go. And it's just so painful. Even more painful than physical disease. It's where the mental health issues really start to rear their dangerous monster head. But somehow or other she got onto this, one of my talks, and it pulled her through. And so she was so happy just to see me, to say thank you. Unexpected, never expected I was in the country, let alone in Paddington Station when she was going somewhere or other. Anyway, it was wonderful to see a person like that and to hear from her that she had passed that talk on to many of her friends going through similar situations. So there's something about these teachings which really actually help, lowering your expectations of life and dealing with things. One of those other amazing teachings, so simple, but it's one of the reasons they're so simple, people think, they're not really important. Whereas sometimes when you have got any difficulties in your life, we tend to obsess about the problems. We can't see anything else except the problems in front of us. And they can be so overwhelming, whether it's like a death, relationship breakup, loss of your health, loss of your job, loss of the sustainability of our planet, or whatever it is. These are important problems. But one of the ways to overcome them is to see something more. Because you notice if you get so depressed, so negative, you can't help anybody, and you become part of the problem instead of seeing solutions. So, very simple teaching. How big is my hand? I say this so often, but it's a brilliant teaching. How big is my hand? My hand is so big now, I can't see any of you. I can't see the clock, I can't see the Buddha statue outside, I can't see anything of this beautiful world. All I can see is my hand. What is the problem? It's not the problem is my hand is too big. I've lost perspective. Because you're obsessed, you bring it so close to you, you can't see anything else. That's all you can see. That's why people call it some obsessions, even addictions. So sometimes if we can only just move the hand out to where it belongs, at the end of the arm. Now I can see everyone in this room. I can see the clock, I can see the beautiful Buddha statue, I can see the reflection of the Buddha behind me in the glass. It looks beautiful, reflecting. And I can see everybody here. My hand hasn't got smaller. I've just got perspective. The problems of this world, they haven't lost their importance, but you can see something more than the problems which we obsess about, which we get depressed about, which mean we cannot really act with hope, with wisdom. You often found that when a person has got this positive attitude, this wise, this loving attitude, they can do so much more in this world. But when you're really depressed and upset, sometimes you spend the whole time, even in bed, feeling depressed, not wanting to get up because the world's a mess. You can't do anything to help. But when you put the hand where it belongs, yes, the hand is there, but there's much more going on. I know that sometimes that when you start focusing on that which is not negative, on the beautiful part of the world, that people are actually doing stuff, the wonderful things which are happening, One of my, call it indulgences if you like, but many years ago I was given this medal, John Curtin Medal, for vision, community service and leadership. And I knew, I was really doubting, community service, that's what you do, what you're ordered to do by the judge when you've done some crime. So well, I didn't commit any crime, so it couldn't be for community service. For vision, I wear glasses. My vision's not that good, so it must be for leadership. But anyway, as often as I can, because I won this medal, I think in 2004 or 5 or something, I always try, if ever I can, to actually to go to the next person who gets awarded these medals. Because it's inspiring to actually to hear the stories of what actually is going on in our world today. What's going on in Perth even. And I don't mind sharing this about this gentleman who won the award this year, and he was a person with, if I remember it correctly, please excuse me if I get some details wrong, he had learning difficulties at school. But he pushed through. Now with help, with encouragement, he got to university, to Curtin University, where he was studied, I think, animal sciences or whatever, applied science. And eventually he managed to, with a lot of extra work, tuition and help, eventually to get his degree. Number one, it says that it agrees with my experience when I was a school teacher. There's no one who can't do things. And if you want to get your degree in this or get a qualification in something else, if you keep on going, you don't give up. There's many people out there who will help you and look after you and care for you and just encourage you. The human capacity, in my experience, is huge. Basically, anyone can do almost anything within reason, just as they believe in themselves, or sometimes that belief is given by other people. People inspire you. Your mentors, if you get a really good mentor, it's like an inspirational teacher, they take you so far in life. But anyway, eventually he got the job over in Perth Zoo. And he was, apparently, he looked after the primates and the orangutan enclosure. And this gentleman, the first name was Leaf something. But anyway, just a person with intellect, with learning difficulties, looking after orangutans, and then seeing what the problem really was. That apparently many of these small baby orangutans were taken to shopping centres because they were so cute and cuddly for promotions to sell products or something. And this is what human beings do. But apparently he knew, he'd been looking after the orangutans for a long time, that really hurt the mother-child bond. And he just used everything he got to stop that exploitation of baby orangutans. Next, to make sure the cages or the compounds were a little bit less like prisons and more like places where they could relax and enjoy and have some similarities to the wild jungles where they came from. But even that wasn't enough. So then he started to return them to the jungles of Borneo and to start a big fund of, what was it called? Something orangutan fund. Just now worldwide, and just millions of dollars in the fund, because he was producing, providing. He was actually doing something for some animals who are just really close to Homo sapiens, the people sitting right in front of me now. He connected with them and basically freed thousands of them throughout the whole world. And to see just how someone started with learning difficulties, and did so amazing work that inspired me. That's why I love going to that event every year if I possibly can. It's the amazing stuff which people do in our world. The reason I say such things is because otherwise we lose our mental health with depression. What a terrible world it is. That people are just in this for themselves. Corruption, amassing wealth, just destroying the environment. There are other people who are just doing totally the opposite. And what that does, it inspires us. We're not just looking at the negative hand, we're looking at something much bigger. The beauty in our world. And my goodness, it is there. So that is a wonderful thing to overcome the problems of negativity and worry which do obsess many people in today's world. In some of the groups over in Singapore, Malaysia, I was just over there recently, some of the most wonderful things that I remember some time ago, they took a whole bunch of kids, elite, I think you'd probably call it elite, rich parents, very comfortable, highly educated, it was I think southern Myanmar after the Nargis cyclone destroyed so many villages in southern Myanmar. And because I go to Singapore, I've got some groups over there, some of the kids were telling me that they learnt more in those 2 or 3 weeks than in the whole school life. Being able just to be with children who they couldn't really understand their language, and the Singaporean Singlish or Chinese which they were talking, totally incomprehensible, but they could still bond. They could feel one another and connect with one another and work together and have something which, who benefited the most from that interaction? Was it the kids who had no place to go to school, no place to go to sleep, their houses destroyed, infrastructure disappeared by Cyclone Nargis? It was Nargis, wasn't it? Yeah, I think so, yeah. By that devastation. Who learnt the most? It was the kids from Singapore. They learnt so much about the big world and how they could help. This wasn't fighting one another, not looking down upon one another, but learning just how to share their humanity, and how when one person's in trouble, when one person's suffering, other people get touched. And we want to help, we have to help, we can't walk past. And that becomes one of the most important parts of life. And it also means they come away with this wonderful sense of hope. Depression, fear comes, and anxiety all comes when there's no hope. Sometimes people ask me, what is anxiety and fear? It's looking at the future with a negative mind. Only seeing darkness, blackness, with no way through. And that makes people depressed, even suicidal. And unfortunately, how many people commit suicide in our modern world? Here, even in Perth. Your kids, your sort of brothers, your sisters, friends. Why? Always looking at the future and seeing no hope, seeing nothing there for them, only sort of misery, only sort of even worse things to happen. And part of my job, your job too, is to realize that that depression, that anxiety, is not necessary. There is another way, not just to look at the hand. It's there. You're not denying the problems of our world. Put it out here and realizing that the hope is looking at the future with a positive mind. If you look at the future with a positive mind, whether it's a climate emergency, whether it's economy, whether it's cancers, whatever it is, solutions are found. Ways forward reveal themselves, not when one is depressed, not when one is anxious, not when one has lost hope, but one has hope. There's a way. Let's find that way. A good example of that, I'm a very fortunate monk. I do get to go to some very interesting conferences. One of those conferences I went to several years ago was a very high power conference. And at the time, I don't know exactly the year because I live in the present moment, but I know it was when Kevin Rudd was the Prime Minister, because he was at this conference together with Julia Gillard and Wayne Swan and the Premier of Victoria at the time, and also Anna Bligh from Queensland. All these very high profile. I also had a representative from the Iranian Revolutionary Guards. How they got him into this country, I don't know. But very high profile people on this think tank in the Whitsunday Islands. And the presentation I always remember was on climate change. But they looked upon it a totally different way. This is actually the thinking outside the box type of stuff, with the hope, not just the anxiety, with a terrible situation. What they said, the moderator of this one panel started saying, well, this is a scenario, just imagine this. A huge chunk of the Greenland glacier fell off, created a tsunami, and just wiped out half of New York port. And so they had to solve this problem. And they did, reducing greenhouse gases to 0. So they did it. Okay, so this is where you start. You start from the end. Now, I want all you experts to think backwards. How did we get there? How did we reduce everything to 0? And that was actually that thinking backwards thing. And I thought, what a wonderful... This was just over 10 years ago. I know that. You know why I got that timeline correct? Because when it came to my little problem was, how can we give full ordination to bhikkhunis? That was just over 10 years ago. You know what I did? I said, well, I talked with Ajahn Brahm. Okay, let's imagine that we've got full ordination for bhikkhunis. We've solved the problem. How do we get there? Let's work backwards from the solution. And of course, that's what we did. So, even for any problems, you have a terrible cancer. Now just imagine you're in remission. It's gone. How did you get there? Reverse engineering? Is that the right word? Reverse engineering? Get the solution and work backwards to see how it works. You get very innovative solutions that way. Because you're starting from hope, first of all. It's done. Yeah, we've solved the problem. We've got peace, we've got harmony, we've got what we need. But how do we get there? So those sorts of ways of looking, they assume hope rather than anxiety. People are so... I was going to swear there, I shouldn't do that. So blooming, is blooming okay? Okay, so blooming negative in our world today. And we're always blaming somebody else, instead of actually having this beautiful positive mind. we need everybody on board. I need you, you need me. Let's see how we can solve these problems with hope, with a positive, doing wonderful things like starting from the solution. How do we get there? Little ways which, when we have a much more trained mind, which is what we focus on in Buddhism, not belief, not faith, not spending all the time praying for stuff. Okay, I haven't told any funny stories yet. This is one of my favourite funny stories from a long time ago. There was a flood. I'm going to finish off with this one. Sometimes I get too serious. It's out of character. Please excuse me. There was this flood. Apparently this was in southern Malaysia a long time ago. And there was this Buddhist monk who was a devotee of the goddess of mercy, Kuan Yin. And as the floods came, he had to climb up onto his roof. And as he climbed up onto his roof, the floodwaters rose and rose, and the venerable, the Sifu, that's what they call the monks in Malaysia, in China, Sifu. The Sifu was on top of the roof when the rescue boat came past. And the rescue boat crew said, jump in, we've come to save you. He said, no, I don't need to be saved. I'm a devotee of the goddess of mercy, Kuan Yin. She will save me. She's never let me down. I have faith. And they said, look, jump in now. The flood waters are rising. He said, no, leave me alone. Go and save somebody else who doesn't believe in Kuan Yin. I am going to be safe. So, okay. Have you met people like that before? Anyway, the floodwaters rose. And so the fellow was on top of the roof. You know those curly bits on the end of the roof? He was clinging on to one of those. And the boat came past again and said, Sifu, we really admire your faith. It's wonderful, but now, please jump in the boat. He said, no, I have faith in the goddess of mercy, she will save me. So they couldn't force him to jump in, so they went away to save somebody else. The floodwaters rose. And now he was holding on to his TV aerial. That was the last thing to hold on to. He was holding on to that as the floodwaters were sweeping past him. It was too strong for the boat, so they sent helicopter. And the helicopter dropped the ladder down, and they shouted out, Sifu, grab onto the rope. And he shouted out, no need, I have faith in Kuan Yin, she will save me. How was the special effects? Were they okay? I need some feedback every now and again. She will save me, hold on to the rope, no. They couldn't force him. So the helicopter went to save someone else. You know what happened? He drowned. He died. And when he went to heaven, don't worry whether there's a heaven or not, it fits into the story. When he went to heaven, oh, he was in a filthy mood. He was really upset and angry. And the first person he wanted to say, I want to see that Kuan Yin. And he went out, he found her up there, and when he went out, he said, you really let me down, you embarrassed me. You make me ashamed. So all those years I've been believing in you, when I really needed you, you let me down, I'm drowned. And like most heavenly beings, she looked down upon this devotee and said, Sifu, in a very soft, kind voice, Sifu, I didn't let you down. Didn't I send you 2 boats and 1 helicopter? And the meaning of that story is we don't just complain and blame others, we find solutions. There is a solution. Find it. And that's the story. That's the talk for this evening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay. Now we've got some comments. I hope there's not a question there from Ajahn Brahm like I sent him 2 weeks ago. Is there? No, okay. He's not as naughty as I am. Okay, so the first question over here. Oh, is there any questions from the floor here, first of all, to give some? No, okay. Okay, from DY in USA. What is the Buddhist way to be resilient? Oh, actually, I started off with resilience, didn't I? To workplace bullies. First of all, if you can not respond, why does a person bully you? First of all, it's actually to try and make you upset. My experience with a workplace bully when I was a young monk in Thailand. I wrote about this, but it was amazing I could actually do this. This monk, he was a senior to me, but not that senior. When I was washing my bowl, he came up to me. I was, squatting on the floor, sort of towering over me, using physical intimidation, just by the physical, but very close, looking down at me. Dhammaloka, that's a filthy habit. Wiping your alms bowl with the same cloth as you dried the spittoon. That's filthy. Now, it made no logical sense at all. We were doing that for weeks. That's how I was trained. And all the other monks were doing the same. But he was looking down at me. So the first reaction would be, if you're not trained, is to say, why are you picking on me? Other monks are doing the same. And even if I was doing something wrong, that's not the way to treat me. You should do it nicely. Dear Ajahn Brahm, maybe you should use another cloth instead of that cloth. That's not the way of the monk to shout like that. I thought of doing that, but I realized I can do better. So what I did, even though I knew I was being picked on and being bullied, I looked him in the eyes. Silently, I went over to the bag with the rags. And everybody was looking at me as I was doing this, because life is quite boring in a monastery. And whenever there's any confrontation like this, we don't have TVs. This is exciting. What's going to happen next? So I could feel their eyes on me, and I confirmed afterwards, they were all looking, what's he going to do? And so I picked up a rag from the bag, as he wanted, went back, and I don't know if they could see me shaking, but you know what it's like? You're really forcing yourself not to do what you really want to, which is punch him in the nose or something. No, relax, restrain. And I went to the spittoon and wiped it with the cloth which he wanted. He was silent all the way. And then I looked at him, square in the eyes. I never said anything. And all the other monks also looked at him. What are you going to do now? And he went bright red, like one of those English postbox. And he walked away. He never scolded me again in all those years. He realized that is how to deal with such abuse. I wasn't going to play that game. I don't care whether I wipe it with a cloth or with whatever, but I'm not going to get upset and angry, which meant that he had to live with that very bad behavior, and he couldn't blame me for anything at all. So sometimes if you can do that, it has to be done in public, so everybody sees him doing, or her doing, that terrible bullying. And if they see it, and you embarrass them, the embarrassment, the shame which is in the bully, they don't want to ever do that again. A punch in the nose, they may punch you back. A punch hurts, but the shame and humiliation went far deeper into that bully. Of course, sometimes the Buddhists don't bully you in public. Sometimes they do it in private, so they can't use that technique. So sometimes if you can refuse to get upset, pushing your buttons, make sure you do not show that you're irritated or upset or angry. Which means that the reason why they bully you, to take away your happiness, they don't succeed. But if it does cause you a lot of physical unhappiness and strain and pain, or it does cause you some mental not problems, but mental upset, then of course there are laws, rules and regulations. That's the time to go and to see the person who's in the company who does sort of deal with workplace bullies. Wherever there is hierarchies, where one person has more power than you have, when they're boss and also junior, some people just use that inequalities of power, to hurt others. They find that they get some joy out of that, some type of pleasure. But if you can, tell your boss. But of course, you do need the evidence. Usually it's the case that if they do it to you, they do it to others. And so the boss usually knows about it. It's a character trait of that person, and tell them it's unacceptable. Anyway, from Poland, how can I be resilient to my inner voice that keeps telling me I am worthless? You have that inner voice which you hear a lot. Please get some of these tapes, these podcasts, which we put out all over the world. Download them on your iPod or your iPad or iPhone or something, and keep playing it to yourself. So instead of listening to what you say, your inner voice that keeps telling you that you're worthless, listen to Ajahn Brahm's voice, which tells you that you are fine, you are wonderful, you are worth something, that you can do anything in this world. So I know that sometimes people just don't tell you that in your workplace. So the reason that you sent this question to me was that you obviously respect me, and you have some sort of faith that I know what I'm talking about. So if you do really respect me, download this talk. Eve from Poland, you are amazing. You're full of potential which hasn't been realized yet. You are not worthless. Go, girl. Go and do it. Sadhu, sadhu. That's from all the people here. Come, more sadhus. This is for Eve. Sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, Eve. So please record that segment and put it on your iPhone and play it again and again and again and again until you're totally brainwashed that you are worth something. And Wolfram from Germany, how can I reach stillness to calm pain in the body if chronic irritations are stronger than my peace? How can I find rest in peace? This is where if you have chronic irritations and pain in your body, that if there's no way of overcoming that pain, then we welcome the pain. We don't try to cure it, but we care for it. And many talks about that, caring for things rather than curing them. Similarly, the brilliant psychology of the Buddha when he identified things called anger-eating monsters. Get out of here, you don't belong. And the monster gets worse. Threatening the monster, if you don't get out now, I'm going to call the police, I'm going to call the security, I'm going to call the SWAT team, I'm going to call the US Marines, I'm going to call the Taliban to get you out, whatever. And the monster just gets bigger and bigger and bigger every time you feed it anger. And that's with many chronic pains and chronic irritations. It's a tough one to do, and it's it's not an easy thing, but it can be done. So see if you can not feed the monster with irritations, but with kindness. Welcome, monster. Yeah, welcome, yeah. Thank you for visiting. And see if what happens to that monster. The monster becomes your friend, your ally. You know, there's many people in this world don't receive any kindness at all, any respect. Some of the people I've met in jail, you give them a little bit of kindness, they're monsters. I shouldn't really call him a monster, but this one gentleman, when I went into many years Canning Vale jail, I was given this little pen. And being a monk is a really weird life, because it said, this is a security pen, it looks like an ordinary biro pen. You notice on the ceilings is what looks like smoke alarms. They're not smoke alarms, they're security alarms. If you get attacked, it's an all-male jail, but they'll attack you. It said, point it at one of those security alarms, press a button at the top, we'll know where you are, we'll come and save you. But please do not tell the prisoners, just put it in your pocket. And I looked at the head officer there and said, look, I'm a monk, I don't have pockets. Oh, I don't, put it anywhere. So I held it in my hand. He said, but don't tell any prisoners. And so as soon as I went into my class, this big fellow, just, what was it, about 6 foot across the shoulders? It's an exaggeration, but he was big and scarred. He was one of the leaders of one of the gangs in the prison. And he looked at me and said, call me Brahm. Brahm, you've got one of those security devices too. So you're not supposed to know about it. Oh, come on, we know everything. And he told me then, he was really serious, he looked me in the eye and said, do you really think you could press that button before I jumped and raped you? I said, no, you'll probably get to me before I even thought of pressing that button. He said, yeah, I'm pretty quick. But I wasn't scared, because he said, but we like you in this jail. So if any of the ones behind the back there, if they tried anything like that on you, we jump them first. You're protected in this jail. We want you to know that. And that was so beautiful. These guys, could rape me, male-to-male rape. They could do it so quickly. But I felt so safe. Why? Because I'd seen something in those prisoners that I could respect. And for those people who've never been respected before, except for their violence or their toughness, that was something so valuable. They would never let me be harmed. The monster. Be kind to it. The pain, the chronic irritation, if you're kind to it, see something beautiful in it. It's a tough ask, but then it will never harm you. See some good in it, and it won't harm you. So thank you, Wolfram from Germany. Okay, so any questions here before we finish off? Oh, Eddie, of course, yes. What would a Friday night talk be without a question from Eddie?
Ajahn Brahm, I'm going to ask maybe a silly, stupid question.
I love silly questions.
But it might not be stupid, yeah. Ajahn Brahm, regarding mental health, do you believe in demonic influence?
Oh, yeah.
Like, for example, the person, maybe there's something not right, sink down, and then to the level whereby the demons take over,
Yeah.
and make the person not well.
Yes, it's, to be honest with you, in all the years which I have been a monk, and people bring people up to me who they think are possessed. There's only one case which I saw, which probably was a possession. It's very incredibly rare to see anything like that at all. And again, compassion was the way to overcome these things. But I have seen black magic, I must admit. I used to give it to my girlfriend when I was young. Chocolates. That's the only black magic I've really seen, which I can say, yes, I've seen, and it's quite tasty.
Ajahn Brahm, why I asked you this question? Because you're talking about demons. I just share something, okay? whenever I have a problem, which when I can't solve, okay, what I'll do is, and it works for me, Ajahn Brahm, for me,
Yeah.
I would say, may the power of the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha
Yeah.
protect me from any harm or danger. I keep repeating that,
Oh, yeah.
and it just clears for me.
Yeah.
It just, that's my, like
Oh, yeah, because
the power, because I use my own power to
Yeah, good. Excellent. Go for it, yes. Okay, no, it's true, because that just, at the very least, it uplifts one, gives you energy, gives you some confidence, and gives you a positive mind. And that helps. Okay, so now, oh yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
What is anger and where does it come from? And if it doesn't come from our own personal experiences, does it come from some other collective place?
What is anger? Where does it come from? A lot of it comes from tiredness and exhaustion. You find that when you relax and rest, take a break, your anger decreases. We live in a society which doesn't have time to rest. Or physical problems, we get viruses, we get other sort of problems which exhaust us, but we're still expected to perform from others. We're not allowed to take a rest. Much of anger comes from that. It's just frustration. You're asked to do way too much. There are times when you've got huge energies, you can do amazing things, but you can't always do that. So it's wonderful to be able to give yourself the gift of peace, relaxation, and don't have to live up to anybody else's unrealistic expectations. And then you just you tend not to get angry. After a good night's sleep, you don't get angry. But if you haven't had a good night's sleep, ooh, the monster has arisen. I know that's a bit simplistic, but there's a lot of truth to that, and you can expand that to many areas. Excellent. Okay, so now let's pay respects to Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and then we can all do what we need to do within reason. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Suwakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namah